to the Daily Dilemma. I'm Emma.
And I'm Brian. Burns.
And today we have kind of a fun episode. We're going to be talking about employer/employee horror stories while working. So we each have 3 stories that we want to tell, 3 that we found, and we're going to talk about them because they're pretty crazy. So who wants to kick it off? You want to start or do you want me to start?
I want you to start.
Okay. This one got me. Worked at a new Fry's that opened in my old town a number of years back. It was pretty bad initially, and they really overworked their employees. The turnover was huge, and later a suit was filed against this specific Fry's. In any case, when I started, there was a blonde woman who I forgot her name now. Let's call her Beth. Beth was overly enthusiastic to the point of being incredibly annoying to any and every employee/customer. Beth was apparently also a pathological liar and frequently left her shifts early to do God knows what. When she was fired, she came back with a nice purple present, all wrapped up with a white bow and everything. It was meant to be an apology to the manager, but she quickly dropped it off and took off, saying she was busy. It smelled like it had been doused in a gallon of perfume, but she seemed half crazed, so whatever. The manager for her department at the time took it and opened it near the registers. Inside was a lump of crap. She cracked it in a box and gave it to her manager as a gift, of course. And then they added, I should clarify that the box was not large, half a foot length and width-wise. There was no smearing or mudging along the box. It was about as neat as you could make a turd in a box.
Oh my God. Making messes over there?
Yeah, apparently.
Wow, that's an interesting one.
Imagine. I would hate to be the manager.
That is just that's a little hard to believe.
Yeah, I know. Someone would go to those lengths.
Yeah. It's like the old trick of putting a bag of that on someone's porch and lighting it on fire, and when they walk out they stomp out the fire and get it all over them.
I've never heard of that.
No,
but it seems like you've certainly.
I've never done it. I've seen it. I think I've seen it in a movie or something.
I think I've seen it happen. One of my friends.
No. Okay, so what do you have to say about this one?
I don't have to say anything. That's just disgusting.
It is disgusting.
I can't ever imagine, like, you work at a Fry's. You work at a grocery store. How bad could your life be?
If you don't like your job,
just leave.
Find another one.
Yeah. Okay, your
that's turn. The moral of that story. All right, here we go. This is another one that I found. It says I worked at a company where they had cameras, mics, and speakers installed all over the place, even in the kitchen. If you spent 2 extra minutes at lunch, the wife of the business owner was screaming at you through the speakers. She would also get her manicures and pedicures in the office, and afterwards and ask employees to empty the bucket she used to soak her feet in. So terrible. So they were viewing, like, kind of monitoring everybody on cameras,
micromanaging, and then
just kind of extreme, right? Like, and then they were being, pretty lax at work, doing pedicures and stuff there
in the office.
Yeah. And then asking their employees to dump out the gross water.
Yeah, clearly they just have never managed
business or
business
office
before.
Yeah. It's gross. Find a new job. That's one where you don't deserve to be treated that way.
Okay, this one's really crazy, and there's actually I won't spoil the story, but
all right.
Okay, a few years ago, I was a kitchen manager at a place in Charlotte, North Carolina. I didn't know if it was common knowledge or not, but drug use in kitchens is very common, and most of the time accepted. That being said, I had a line cook who had come in tweaked out on cocaine. He came to me, explained the situation, apologized, asked if he could run somewhere and come in a little later in better shape. It was slow, and most of the prep was done, so I said he could have an extra hour. He comes back 45 minutes later and is calmed down, stopped shaking, and had a grin on his face. He was one of my better line cooks, so I was glad to see that I didn't have to reprimand him. We begin the dinner service and everything is running smoothly when I look across the line and he begins to look as if he's falling asleep while working the grill. He assured me that he was fine. 15 minutes goes by and I see him collapse, landing with his face and arm on the grill. He didn't even wake up. I run across the kitchen and push him off. Skin literally melted to the grill. As he hits the ground, he wakes up and simply says, "Aw, shit, chef."
You're just quoting.
This is
a restaurant.
Yeah. The smell was absolutely horrific.
Oh, could you imagine? Now that it's still, I mean,
literally can't imagine.
They can't cook on that anymore. That's gonna ruin the food.
At 7 p.m. on a Friday night, we closed the restaurant, opened all the doors and windows, and cleaned up the mess. We bought new plates for the grill, don't worry. As I'm doing my order for the next day around 10 p.m., he comes back in, bandaged up, and says, "Chef, can I help with anything?" Astonished, I couldn't reply. As he continued to explain that he went to his dealer's house and got a shit ton of Oxycontin, excuse my language, and snorted it so he could calm down, and he just nodded out. But it's okay, they gave me morphine so I could still work. And I'm a dumbass, so don't worry about workers' comp. I just still want to have a job.
It continues.
Yes. 2 weeks later, he returned to work, sober, and hasn't touched a drug or had a drink since. I arranged so that his hospital bills were paid, but he had no paid time off. One of the best employees and craziest mother effers I will ever meet.
Wow, so it had a good ending.
Yeah, wait for this, it gets better.
Okay.
So there is an edit made, like, I think a few years ago. Because this was posted a while back.
Okay.
And he says, after seeing how much you guys enjoy the story, I contacted him. It's been 3 years. He met his now fiance at an NA meeting, expecting a daughter in a few months, and was just called about becoming the sous chef at a restaurant opening in Atlanta. He moved there because he said that Charlotte was too dangerous. Charlotte was too dangerous for him, and there were too many haunting memories. Thank you guys so much. Makes me proud. He cried. Thank you. Me. So
that's
he turned his life around at the end of the day, but that's pretty crazy.
Wow, that's really
so
gross.
Would you say that was you managing the restaurant? Would you keep him on? Excuse me.
Well, I think the manager made him get some rehab before he would let him work again, which makes sense. You know, it's a tough one because if you think the person is serious about getting better, then it seems like you could take a chance on them. But
I think that would be a tough one.
That would be a tough one.
I would definitely dabble with that. Not dabble with drugs, but dabble with the idea of keeping someone on like that. It is a restaurant.
I think you'd have to, maybe drug test them or something like that, just so you don't have that issue again, because that's pretty serious.
Well, yeah, even having to buy new grills because
it's expensive, yeah.
Yeah.
And that smell, I can only imagine what that's like. I did work in restaurants when I was young, and I never actually witnessed it, but I did hear that was a pretty common thing for especially the cooks and things like that to do cocaine and things. It's crazy.
Can't relate.
Yeah, say no to dope and hug to drugs.
Here you go.
You want me to do one now?
Yeah.
All right.
Wait, did I do 2 in a row? I thought we did. Okay.
It's my turn. Yeah. Okay, so this one, the title of this one is A Coworker Stole My... Oh, you don't want to hear the title? All right, here's the story. My food is always really, really spicy. I just love it that way. Anyway, I was sitting at my desk when my coworker came running out, having a hard time breathing. He then ran into the bathroom and started being sick. I'm guessing maybe throwing up or something.
Yeah.
Turns out he ate my clearly labeled lunch. It also was in a cooler lunchbox to keep it cold from work to home. And it's a long drive. There was nothing different about my lunch that day. In fact, it was just the leftovers from my dinner the night before. Fast forward a day, and my boss comes in asking if I tried to poison this person. Of course, I denied that I had done so. I even took out my current day's lunch and let my boss taste a bit. He was blown away by how spicy it was, even though he only took a small bite. I then proceeded to eat several spoonfuls to prove I could eat it with no problem. You know, it's true. Some people have like a high tolerance to spicy food. I'm not one of those people.
Honestly, after COVID, no, before COVID too. I've just gone really like I really enjoy spicy food.
You do? Okay. Not me. He said not to worry and that it was clear to him that I didn't mean any harm. My coworker shouldn't have been eating my food, etc., etc. I thought the issue was over. A week later, dun dun dun, I got a call up to HR for an investigation, claiming that I did in fact try to harm this person, and this investigation is still ongoing. What confuses me is there was nothing said about this guy trying to steal my lunch. When I brought it up, they said something along the lines of, "We cannot prove he stole anything." I'm confused at this. I thought the proof would be clear. I'm with this guy. I think
Was
that
that it? Was that
that's the end.
Yes,
Yeah.
what happened after?
No, we don't know how it ends, but the fact that the coworker was stealing his lunch is wrong.
Just say you're a wimp to spicy food and move on. You don't need to
Exactly.
take it up for an investigation.
Right. And if he's stealing someone's lunch, what about investigating that?
I think my whole family should be investigated then because my lunch has definitely been several times.
Yeah. You
Well,
want to do another one? All right,
yeah.
your turn.
We own a salvage yard, a junkyard, and we usually have a few cats around. Every now and then, one of these cats will flame us and live in the office. We feed it, take it to the vets, and become our junkyard pet cat. One particular cat was awesome, and all the guys loved this cat, even the burly guys. They would all share their lunches with the cat. This one guy that used to work for us was a real asshole. One day he decided that he didn't like the cat anymore. He took a can of spray paint and painted the poor kitty all over head to tail. When the cat came into the office, my husband, who is the boss, went ballistic. The first thing my husband did was wash the cat off as the best he could. Then he went into the shop and raced holy hell, screaming at everyone until a new guy finally told him that he saw Jim spray the paint on the cat. My husband was raging and wanted to really F this guy up bad, but instead called the cops and filed animal cruelty charges and fired him on the spot. This guy had the balls to file for unemployment for unlawful termination. He was denied several times but kept opposing the judgment. We fought his argument all the way to the highest level of state review, where he was granted full unemployment benefits. The reason was even though he broke the law while at work, it doesn't state in our handbook no spray painting of cats or no unlawful activities at the workplace. We thought this would have been a given. This guy finally got his though, kinda. He's serving a year in jail for fleeing from the police while drunk. The cat lived for several more years. One guy would always come in on Sunday to feed her, and he found her dead. She had died in her sleep and in a box filled with blankets that he kept. That was
That's just a sad story.
really like roller coaster of emotions. I didn't even read the end before I was like, and the cat was fun, and then he died, and then he's in jail, and then
wow. I think, yeah, torturing cats is a bad thing in general.
But isn't that hilarious? Like they literally have to put in their handbook, like don't spray paint the cats. I don't like cats, so
I'm not a big cat guy, but I don't think that you should harm animals for any reason, really.
He spray painted him. To be honest, though, I do feel like the husband overreacted.
Did he?
Yeah, just fire him and move on.
All right, you ready for mine? My last one?
Ready for our last horror story.
Okay, last work horror story. Here we go. Recently, while I was having chemotherapy, wow, this isn't a good start. Ned showed up at the clinic and started asking me about work matters. I assume Ned is a coworker or manager. I was completely surprised that he even knew where I was and that he was asking me about work on my off time. The things he was asking about were not emergencies or work with deadlines. When I went back to work after my days off, OSHA was waiting to speak with me and apologize. She was almost in tears because Ned had asked her about my schedule and whether I was on days off or at a meeting. She didn't want to tell him at first, but because the calendars are supposed to be confidential, but he threatened to fire her if she didn't tell him. And he also demanded the name of the clinic after she admitted that she knew what clinic I was getting my chemotherapy at. I was really upset that Ned had threatened to fire OSHA. I didn't know you could fire OSHA.
What's
For
OSHA?
It's a organization, like it's the rule. It has to do with like worker. It's an abbreviation for something, but it's
Okay.
worker safety. For following the, it must have been an employee that handled OSHA incidents. For following the rules and trying to keep the calendar confidential, and for coming to ask me about work stuff on my time off while I'm having treatments. When Robert was actually in the office, I complained to him about Ned's behavior, and he assured me it would be dealt with. Well, I'm dealing with it. Was firing him dealing with it was firing OSHA for revealing the confidential information that was on the calendar when she wasn't supposed to.
No.
He gave Ned access to the calendars instead, so now Ned has access to my schedule and will come to the clinic when he has questions about work. This just sounds all topsy-turvy wrong, all different directions. Like you shouldn't have anyone come to your chemotherapy
Asking about work
related stuff at all.
Get a
And
new
then-
job, Ned. No, his
Yeah,
name's not Ned.
no, it's not. Whoever.
Whoever it is.
Don't work with Ned anymore. Ned's not cool.
Do you have any crazy stories that happened to you? We told other people's.
I mean, I have had some interesting ones, but none that I can share.
I have one. So it was I used to work at a pizza parlor, and this was probably at the age of like 15 or 16, and it was a Tuesday, Halloween. We had 2 for Tuesdays pizzas. And so everyone after Halloween came in to get their 2 pizzas for the price of 1.
Okay.
And wait time was like 4 hours. Imagine trying to tell someone on the phone, like, hey, you gotta wait 4 hours for us to deliver your pizza.
Right.
So we're just trying to bust them out. I'm on the phones, I'm handing them to people, I'm trying my best to get people their orders, whatever. Well, then this lady walks up to the counter and says, I've been waiting 3 hours and I'm still not getting my pizzas. And I'm like, dude, you and the rest of everyone else. So I look at her ticket. It's only been 30 minutes.
Mhm.
She has not been waiting.
And
2
she's
to 3
not being
hours.
honest with you.
She's not being honest with me. So, but we can't, usually when people like come up and say something, we're like,
You try to accommodate.
Yeah. So we're trying to see what we can do. I think we worked it down to like 2 hours, which at the time seemed to be pretty good because everyone else was waiting like 3.5.
Yeah.
It might even been like an hour and a half. So they put the pizzas on the oven, and I didn't realize that. So she's coming up and she's yelling at us again, and I'm like scrambling, and I'm like, I don't see your pizzas.
So she thinks you lost her order.
Yes. And meanwhile, they were on the oven.
Okay.
Waiting. We got them done early.
Oh, dang.
So I finally find them on top of the oven after, a few minutes of people kind of looking for them and couldn't find them. She's still yelling, whatever. Grab the pizzas. Right as I go to pull them down, flies over my head and falls right in front of her on the floor. And I turn around and I just start bawling my eyes out, run to the back. I'm like crying. I can't
never
keep
heard
it
that
together. And then the owner finally walks up and she's just like, guys, let's go. And she just whips it up really fast and throws it in the oven. It was like they were out in like 10 minutes, but
Wow.
it was pretty traumatic.
I bet.
I was hysterical because first I couldn't find these freaking pizzas. The oven's like stacked with orders. And I thought everyone was on board with like as soon as they come out of the oven, like someone is waiting for them. But I did drop them at the end of the day, right in front of her. I didn't even see her face. Huh?
That'll teach her to lie.
That'll teach her to be impatient.
And be impatient.
I'm sure she never went back, but.
Well, it sounds like you guys did the best you could to accommodate after both times.
Yeah. So that's my horse story.
Did you get fired? You're fired.
You're fired. It's from Cat in the Hat. I did not get fired.
Good. I do remember, it reminds me of a time when I was working as a busboy at a restaurant, and we had to deliver waters. So the first thing you do when someone sat down is you take them water. And so it was a table of 4, and the water cups were like these goblets with a stem and, you know, and a base. And so I had these 4 waters on a round tray, and you had to carry them like this. And I was brand new, so I was still learning how to do it. So I'm carrying my tray to the table, and when you go to lean over to set down the water, the others kind of, you know, tilt, and once they go, and water all over the table, down somebody's back, and it was quite embarrassing. They were actually pretty cool about it, despite the fact that I just soaked them with water. But
yeah,
that was my first big blunder in the workforce.
That reminds me of just so many other stories. I'm like, on my birthday, somebody dropped a drink on me and it got like all over my dress. Got my meal compensated. And then when I was in San Francisco at the
Stinking Rose. Yeah, Rose, you're thinking of that.
Garlic.
You had the 30 garlic chicken?
No, it was the garlic cloves like that you could like eat or whatever.
Yeah.
And
like
the garlic spill on me.
No, they spilled a whole bottle or a glass of wine on the table too, remember?
Yeah.
And it got all over our clothes and everything.
The stinking wasn't just happening from the garlic.
Yeah.
It was
But I think they took care of us. Like they paid for our meal, and they comped the meal and gave us a meal.
They should.
Well, yeah, but they made
We've never been back since. We don't.
No, we don't live near that.
But the meal was great.
It was good food.
Yeah.
It's a fun place to go. It's actually kind of an interesting place to go.
Why?
Because they're known for like the waitresses being very brash.
Oh my gosh. I think that's what it was. It's like they were kind of like they're known for being kind of rude, and then they did that to us, and we're like,
but they didn't mean to do that.
No.
Right. So it was kind of.
But it's kind of part of the gig, like the gig, the gag, the.
Yeah, it just all went south on them.
Yeah. Well, those are our stories, and we're gonna do this kind of on the regular. Once a month, we want to tell funny employer stories, whether they're crazy, gross, or weird. So if you have any, send us them, and we would love to tell them on the podcast.
Yes,
we won't say names, we won't say any like places of work, but we would love to tell your stories. And you can start watching us, listening to us on YouTube and on Spotify, and soon to be Apple Podcasts. So we appreciate you tuning in today, and we will catch you next week with another dilemma. So I will see you guys. Bye.
Bye.